there. This is CC with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We have one of our elite guests on, and it's Stephen Kobrin. Hi, Stephen.
Good morning, CC. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. We wanted to check back with you. I know that you are a licensed insurance, life insurance broker, and you are headquartered there in New Jersey, and you cover like 48 states. So I know that you're a very busy man. So I want to thank you for coming on.
You are welcome. It's my pleasure to talk to you. I'm very excited about what you're doing. I want to support it.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So tell me what's happening in your world. What's going on with the life insurance industry?
I think it's interesting. I think that there's increased morale. I think there's a positive outlook. I think that the changing of the guard or the administration is creating feelings of encouragement. I think there's a pro-business outlook. And I think the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of life insurance is sold by independent business people, small business owners, sole proprietors, mom and pop shops. And folks like us are very excited about the opportunities ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, life insurance is so important. I know we have an audio for on the show regarding the insurance and how important it is, but I can't state again what a relief it is for your family members that, you know, once you pass, that there is that type of benefit to them, and how important it is to be able to have that available. So you cover so many different states. Are you seeing any difference with regards to the coverage and, you know, people purchasing and things like that in the different states? Is there a difference in the states as with regards to that?
It's a very interesting question because life insurance is regulated on a state-by-state basis. So I basically have had to complete 48, really 49, because Washington, D.C. is its own district. 49 sets of registration paperwork, pay 49 fees, get fingerprinted 15 times with all the bureaucracy. And because life insurance is regulated on a state-by-state basis, and what that does for the consumer's point of view is it means that certain companies and products are available only in certain states. Now, the fact of the matter is that the vast majority of states offer the same products and the same companies, but there are exceptions, and the most notable exception is New York. There are different companies licensed to sell life insurance in New York than other states, and New York approves different products in their state. So the answer to your question is, in general, somebody in Wisconsin could buy the same product from the same company as Florida, but there's a few other exceptions.
Well, that's very interesting because there's so many differences with regards to the different states. And, you know, it's comforting to know that you are, you know, you've taken all of the appropriate actions that you need to, as far as having your license and being appropriate and going through all the background checks and, you know, all the documentation that you have to submit. So it's really nice to know that not only do you just cover one state, but you cover all these states. So you're very serious, number one, about what you do. And then you're stay on top of each state, which is really a great thing to know what's happening. You know, so your pulse is really right there. You know what's going on with regards to the industry.
It's a good point. I'll tell you what drives that. About 20 years ago, there's a National Association of Insurance Commissioners, which is a cooperative organization of the insurance commissioners from every state. And they kind of self-regulate the industry, which is good because it means that the federal government doesn't have to keep imposing layers of regulation on an industry that self-regulates. And about 20 years ago, the NIAC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, imposed continuing education requirements on everybody that's licensed to sell life insurance. So we are required to meet a continuing education requirement every 2 years. And private companies are involved in providing classes which we can take for credit. And I have to tell you that those classes are not a breeze. You have to work hard, you have to pass exams, and you have to take a lot of classes to get a lot of credits in order to stay licensed. And these classes and these exams reflect developments in the industry nationwide and statewide. So yeah, you're right. If you want to stay licensed to sell life insurance, you are required to keep up with developments in the country and in the industry. And I think that's a very good thing, because therefore people who can't make that commitment financially and time-wise to stay certified for their license, they're not going to be selling the product.
Right. And so it's important for us as a consumer, because you're really at the pulse of it. You really know what's happening. You're aware of, any rules and regulations, any changes that are made. And so it's really important for us to know that whoever's going to represent us, where we purchase our insurance from, they're really on top of it and know what's a good thing. Being single for me, it's really important for me to be able to have that assurance, because, I don't have anyone else to kind of talk it over with or anything like that. So it's really important for me to have someone that is very knowledgeable, that kind of has my back with regards to these type of issues. And so I think that, I really commend you for doing above and beyond, what you would normally do to make sure that you help us consumers understand what's good for us and what path we need to take with regards to insurance, because there's so many different facets of insurance. I know you and I have talked about this in the past. There's different, just kind of go over a little bit of the life insurance. So if anyone's listening to us for the very first, when they're talking about long-term, short-term, whole life, can you just briefly touch on some of those for us?
Sure.
We'll give you a quiz.
I'm ready. I just took a lot of quizzes. There's a few points to make about life insurance. First of all, there's many forms of insurance. You have life insurance for when you pass on, you take care of your heirs. Disability insurance to pay an income if you get sick or hurt and can't work. And there's medical insurance to pay your hospital bills and doctor bills. Car insurance and property insurance and professional liability insurance. The significance of life insurance is that it's the only form of insurance where there's going to be a claim. You're going to pass on. And that's really important, because when people take a dollar and cents perspective on their insurance portfolio, it makes sense to buy a product for which you're going to get a return. You don't know there's going to be a claim in any other form of insurance except life insurance. And of course, you have to keep the policy in force as long as you do, as long as you are alive. So having said that, there are two forms of life insurance. There's permanent insurance and term insurance. Permanent insurance lasts as long as you do. Term insurance provides coverage on a guaranteed basis for a specified amount of time. Now, I just mentioned that if somebody wants to get a return on their premium with life insurance, they need to keep the policy in force as long as they live. And who knows how long that's going to be. So there really is a demand for permanent insurance to be the foundation of your portfolio. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that there are instances where you might use term insurance. For example, somebody might say, I want to hold on to life insurance for the rest of my life to make sure that my heirs get the money, and buy a certain policy for that. However, in addition, there may be other needs for life insurance that have a specified time frame. For example, they may take out a loan for their home or for their business and pay it off in 10 years. And they want life insurance to cover them for that 10-year period in case, unfortunately, they pass away. They want to be able to have their spouse pay off the lender. So the point here is that there are a variety of types of products in life insurance, and they can meet different needs for life insurance, because the fact of the matter is we do have different needs, long-term and short-term. So a lot of people end up with several policies. Each one meets a different need.
Yeah, that's so important, because I was just having that conversation with a couple different people on different scenarios. Like the first scenario was we were talking with a single mom, and she's in the process of divorce, so she's getting a divorce. And so we were talking about the education and trying to figure out what to do. And I said, well, there is, insurances that you can buy that you could get now that would help cover some of the costs for your education when the time comes for that. And so can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is an example of using what's called the living benefits of life insurance. Permanent insurance, again, the policy that can last as long as you do, can have a cash component, meaning that part of your premium will be combined with the investments of the company and actually put cash inside the policy for use while the insured's alive. And that cash could be used for college funding. It could be used as a down payment to a mortgage. It could be used to capitalize a business. It's your cash, and you could do with it as you see fit. What's interesting about it is you have very quick access, and there's no credit checks required to get that cash. It's very liquid and available, which appeals to a lot of people. However, you need to remember one thing, that life insurance is first and foremost a product that can very cost effectively take care of your survivors. It's a death benefit first product. So that means that if you buy life insurance to take care of your survivors, your children or your future spouse, whoever it may be, you never want to take the cash out of the policy that would jeopardize the death benefit.
Good point.
Of course, there's a trade-off. If you take $100,000 out of a policy to pay for college, then there's going to be $100,000 less survivor benefit, and you don't want to shortchange your survivors on the money they would need. So I think that anytime somebody wants to use life insurance, for example, to pay for college, they need to understand the whole picture of how the product works and know the consequence of taking out their cash. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Right. So it's very important to kind of sit down with you and go over some of the different scenarios in our lives that would be affected and if we want to use life insurance as a vehicle to be able to, use it for education or use it for something else. And I know that I was having a different conversation with an individual. We were talking about alimony, and I said, well, it's so very vital that you have some sort of life insurance for your soon-to-be ex to cover your alimony, because if you're getting permanent alimony and then they pass on, guess what? That alimony ends at their death. But if you get some sort of life insurance, that would help you to be able to, subsidize not getting that payment anymore. And so I think that's very, very important.
Oh, the purchase of life insurance is also mandated in a divorce decree. And for the exact reason you described, if somebody has a financial dependence on the alimony, they're still going to need that money if unfortunately the former spouse passes away. And that's exactly what life insurance does. Within 10 days ago or so, they'll have a lump sum benefit available to replace that alimony that they lost.
Right, absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, but before we break, tell everyone how we can get a hold of you.
Well, thank you so much. I have a toll-free line. It's 866-633-1818. And I also have a website, approvedasquoted.com. Approvedasquoted.com. And that reflects my business model, which is if I give you a quote, it needs to be competitive but also reliable so that you can submit an application knowing that you get approved at that rate. I think that's important.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the insurance policies that might benefit us and how we can go about making sure that we're secure, not only us, but also our beneficiaries, our family members, and things like that. So we're going to talk about more of that when we get back. So thank you, Stephen, for being with us. I appreciate it. He is one of our elite guests, and he helps us out and supports us all the time, so we do appreciate that. So this is Cece with Going Solo. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and we are showcasing both the Going Solo Network completely. We have the elite benefit here with our guests today. We also have our business showcase that we are featuring, and also going solo with Cece as always. So we do appreciate that. I want to thank you all for listening to WGSN. We have a great followership now, and I just want to thank you so much. We've grown so much in a year's time. We have super shows on. They go all the way from just, inspirational, educational. We cover divorce recovery, transition into dating itself. We cover business now, and then our author's corner is just shooting up, and it's just everybody is so excited about it. So we just hear such great things. So I want to appreciate all the authors for coming on board, sharing your great books with us, and being able to move forward with that. It's great, because us singles here, we need positive, inspirational, and just something maybe to read to get our minds off of what's experiencing. So we do appreciate that. So we're going to head right back to the show, because we got a lot going on here with Stephen Kobrin. He is a licensed insurance broker. He handles insurance in 48 states, knows his stuff, man. He does all the things that need to be done within each and every state that he represents. And so we want to welcome him back to the show. Welcome back, Stephen.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you once again.
Yeah, it's so great having you. And you know what? You started with us at the very onset of a WGSN-DB. So I want to thank you so much for your support and everything you do. You do these fantastic blogs. Let's talk about that just quickly, and we'll get back to the insurance, because I know everyone wants to hear. But you have these super blogs that you do, and you talk about all different types of facets with regards to insurance and benefits and things like that. And you have them on your website there. So tell us a little bit about you writing the blogs, and what is your inspiration for writing these great reads, these great blogs?
Thank you. It's a good question. I think the answer is that I care. You really need to understand that the life insurance sale is very unique. Nobody likes to face their death, and really that's what drives the purchase of life insurance. So I like to consider the life insurance salesperson to be a combination of a caregiver and a philosopher type of thing, because in a way you need to guide people to appreciate their mortality and do something about it. It's like an empowering type of thing. And if you treat life insurance just as a commodity, just as another thing you buy, you're not able to reach a person at that level. But I'm always at that level. So therefore, I think about stuff, and I interact with my clients, and I care about them, and I find out what's going on, and therefore I find issues that are important to people that I know and care about, and I write about them. And I'm happy to report that I get a lot of good feedback, because the topics resonate with people, and they'd like to take a deep approach to the issues of life, and I help them do that.
Mm-hmm. I think they're great. I've read many of them, and they've come across, and we also share on our site, and we need to update that a little bit too, some of your blogs. But they're fascinating, and I do agree with that. I think they have depth. You have depth, and so you look towards what you can do to help your client, because they become like your family. And so it's kind of a cool thing that you do, and which is why we love to have represent you here on the station. So it's very, very important to us too. So yeah, so I thank you. So you just go right to your website. Give them the website again if they want to read your blog.
Now the website for quotes and so on is called approvedasquoted.com. Mm-hmm. Blog is planrisklive.com, and that's where all the posts are. Right. So I separate the two.
Right. Yeah, because there's so many of them, and so it's really good. It's good that you have that. But I like the idea that you really focus in on the needs of what your clients are going through, and different topics, and you're being able to share those and stuff. And so with us being single, it is so vital to us, because our world is changing so quickly. I mean, it's almost like technology. I feel like being single, you're like in the technology phase because everything seems to be changing. You're on a constant curve of something new, something happening. And so I like the idea of being able to read and know that, okay, well, this works for me, and I can resonate with that, and I do understand that, and so it's a good thing. So let's talk a little bit more about, because I think this alimony issue is a huge issue. And I wanted to, and I know our first show that we had with you, which is on audio, and it's right there on the site on WGSN, but we talked a little bit about you can buy insurance for someone else's life, like a life benefit for someone else. So what I'm thinking about is that if you, let's say you get alimony, or you have some sort of for me, reason I think of that is because those that are getting alimony, if you don't have a life insurance policy, once that person is deceased, you don't get anything. So if it's not written in the divorce papers and the divorce decree that you get, you should have some sort of life insurance. You can take out, for instance, a wife can take, or ex-wife can take out a life insurance policy for her ex-spouse. Can she not?
Yes, that's called nexus. An insurance company wants to see that the beneficiary truly is financially dependent on the insured. And most certainly a former spouse who is collecting alimony does have that dependence. Therefore, an insurance company would not have a problem issuing a policy on the person that's supposed to pay the alimony. That's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for you out there listening. If you don't have it written in your divorce decree, and you're not like, trying to, wish ill will to your ex, but you're just trying to secure your own future, I would certainly call Stephen and talk about this, because I think it's something that maybe you might be able to get a policy so that if something would happen to your ex, vice versa, if it's a girl, guy, whatever. I mean, we're not talking any kind of sex, gender here. But if you're dependent upon them for your income, definitely, look at possibly getting some sort of policy that can help you when that time happens, if something does happen. So especially when we're looking at permanent alimony, because permanent alimony, as we get older, I think we can become more dependent upon it. So because our jobs, start ending or winding down, start going on Social Security, can't really, cover that expense. So that alimony becomes a real issue for you. So I think that's an important thing. But any other topics that you can think of that might be, kind of resonate with the single sector?
Yeah, actually, there's a few, and I think that we'll stay with the alimony. Let's suppose that former Mrs. Jones is getting alimony from former Mr. Jones and wants insurance on Mr. Jones to pick up the payments in case we lose him. It has to be, that's a legitimate purchase from an insurance company's point of view, but the question remains, who's going to pay for the policy? Mr. Jones may say, okay, if you want to insure me, fine, you pay for the policy, and that could be a matter of negotiation, but along the lines that you're describing, if Mrs. Jones is really concerned about losing the alimony, she probably should pay the premium on her own just to get the coverage. And all Mr. Jones has to do to cooperate is agree to sign the application, go through a medical exam, and go through normal underwriting, which is really no fuss or muss on his part. Okay, so that should be a plan B. Ideally, Mr. Jones, since he's responsible for the alimony in the first place, he would agree to pay for the life insurance too. Okay, but if he doesn't, Mrs. Jones should pay. Now, let's suppose you have the extraordinary situation where Mr. Jones refuses to even go through underwriting at a spite or whatever unfortunate negative situation. He's being forced to pay the alimony, but there's no way you're going to force him to not even pay for the insurance, but even apply for the insurance and go through underwriting. Does Mrs. Jones have any options? Yes. There are certain what's called excess market carriers who will even insure somebody without them knowing it. So that's like the fail-safe. Obviously, I mean, it's provided by legitimate insurance companies, but they address the exceptional situation in which somebody is financially dependent on somebody else, and that person refuses to cooperate in providing the insurance. And this situation of a uncooperative former spouse who will not indemnify the alimony is a classic case that they'll insure. So the good news there is that in an extreme situation where you unfortunately have a lot of acrimony and the former spouse is not cooperating, Mrs. Jones still will have an option of being able to get life insurance on the alimony payer. So there's very few cases in which she'll be left out to dry if unfortunately he passes away. She'll be able to get the odds are she'll be able to recoup that money.
Now, are these very expensive policies? Are they just your normal kind of life insurance premium?
They typically are more expensive. And one reason why they're more expensive is that since the company can't underwrite the person, they don't know too much about that person. I mean, the way to get a very cost-effective policy is for somebody to go through underwriting, and an underwriter to see how healthy you are, what your lifestyle is, what kind of risks you take, and they could price it accordingly. But you have to go through underwriting.
Right.
If you have somebody who's not going to go through underwriting, then they're determining the price on just general sketchy information. You know, the former spouse might say, well, he's 48 years old, and he's just general information, no review of medical records, no insurance exam. So an insurance company can't really underwrite somebody. They tend to charge extra premium for risks they don't know but might have to pay for anyway.
Right.
But it is still, you're still paying pennies on the dollar for the benefit, and it's still a lot better than losing all the alimony and having no replacement.
Right. Now, the other question I have for you with regards to that is who would do the beneficiary? Who would have control of the policy? Would it be whoever is paying for it, or would it?
The owner does. So in the extreme case we just described, Mrs. Jones is the owner. Okay. So she would designate who the beneficiary is, herself, or her children, or a trust. Okay. But as a rule, for these excess market policies, as well as the mainstream policies, the owner controls, which is a big point in a divorce settlement, because you want, when there's a divorce and Mrs. Jones wants to have coverage on the former Mr. Jones, she wants to control that policy. Because if he controls the policy and he gets remarried, he can make the new Mrs. Jones the beneficiary and cut out his former spouse, which you want to protect against that. So she should own that policy.
Right. Now, if he's paying for it, like let's say he decides that he's going to go ahead and pay for it, does that mean that he then becomes the owner of the policy, or can Mrs. Jones still own it and he can pay for it?
Good question. She could still own it.
Okay.
She could still own it. I mean, just as another example, there's many times when a business will own a policy on an executive or on a partner or an investor, and they'll own it, but he might be paying the premiums, or they might share the premiums. So you could have a third party pay the premiums separate from the owner and the insured.
Okay. Well, this is very fascinating, and I think we can use this scenario with a lot of different issues that come up in our lives. So, it's definitely important for us to know that. I really think the key is to let you know what is happening in our lives. What are we a little bit apprehensive about? Are we apprehensive about our children's education, or, our alimony benefit, if that would go away, or, benefits for our children, paying for our funeral? I mean, all those different things that might be issues to us that we do need to address with you. And then you could come up with the type of policy that would be, beneficial to us and also economical to us to be able to handle.
It's interesting that you say that. You're exactly right. I mean, one of my chief goals, even before I talk to somebody about their medical issues, is like, well, what's happened in your life and why do you need this life insurance? Whose interest do you want to protect here? Is it your kids? Is it your own? Is it your spouse? Is it a charity? Is it a business? So you need to understand what's vulnerable and therefore what needs the protection. And that makes, and a lot of times people need guidance in thinking this through. They just have a general idea I need the insurance. I don't want my spouse, children, business to go without, but I need some help determining how much we need and for how long we need the policy in force. So you need to cover those bases first.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll tell you something that also that's interesting, and you can see that kind of discussion really evokes to what extent people care about their children, their spouse, how important money is, security. And a long time ago, I made a decision that, I was just going to be a life insurance broker. I'm not going to be an advisor, a planner, because I find that people will share these personal details with a specialist, but not with a general advisor, meaning that they may have a banker or an accountant or a stockbroker or an auto insurance salesperson or a medical insurance salesperson all selling life insurance, but they're not going to want to talk about their personal needs, their Crohn's disease, or their treatment for depression, or even the emotional parts of their life, like a divorce, with anybody. And they have these other advisors that are like at arm's length, but they will talk to somebody who specializes in underwriting, because that's my world. I can relate to these problems, and I can make them feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very similar to, like, when you go to your doctor. If your doctor identifies a neurological problem or urological problem, he's not going to want to know all the details. He'll send you to the right specialist, and with that person, that specialist, you'll share all the intimate details about what's going on with your body. So similarly, if somebody has a banker or an attorney or accountant, they'll say, generally, I need life insurance, but they won't share the details. They will share it with somebody like me who specializes in dealing with those issues. And they're much more comfortable.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because, it is a personal, especially when you're thinking about life insurance and you're thinking about your beneficiaries, and you're thinking about the end of your life when you think about life insurance, and you want to make sure that as you're living, you're doing all the right things. So at the end of your life, things are taken care of appropriately, and at the end of other people's lives. So if we're looking at possibly insuring, our exes or, our potential soon-to-be ex-spouse, so that we can get covered for the alimony, or if we're looking at other things, we need to be smart on what we're doing, and we need someone that's knowledgeable so that we can go to them to share with them. Now, I wanted to ask you, Stephen, because somebody asked me this too just prior to us meeting, is there an age limit on getting life insurance?
90.
90. Okay.
I haven't come across a carrier past that. What's that?
I'm not close.
I haven't found a carrier with a higher issue age than 90. And that's if you haven't bought life insurance by the time you're 90, I mean,
good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good age.
Yeah. Now, of course, it's more expensive the longer you wait, right, for life insurance.
You see, it's good you said that, because people have a tendency to postpone the purchase, and they forget the fact that even if you're in perfect health, if you're 45 years old and you wait 2 years, the premium for a new policy is going to be that much higher because you're that much older.
Right.
So, yes, the time to buy life insurance is when you're at your youngest, which is now. Plus, the other problem of waiting is you really can't guarantee your insurability. You think you're healthy now, but as we all know, things can happen.
Right.
And in 2 years, you may find that you don't qualify at all, unfortunately, because of a serious condition, or maybe something more minor popped up, but it still raises the premium more than you would like. So the increase in age and the fact that you can't guarantee your insurability are the two reasons why you shouldn't postpone the purchase.
Right. Now, what about those insurance policies that you see all the time that you don't have to get, any kind of physical or anything like that doesn't really matter? Of course, your age would matter because your policy is going to increase depending on your age, but they'll just insure you anyhow. And a lot of times people buy those just as like a burial type of policy. So what would you say about those?
They have a role to play. I mean, those are, from a broker's point of view, those are not big money makers. They're small premium, small face amount policies. I've sold them. And I haven't turned away anybody who wanted that simply because I think everybody needs a decent burial. I mean, I've had my parents both pass away in the last few years. I'm very familiar with people passing away, attended a lot of funerals. And I think having a decent burial is a human requirement. So life insurance provides the money for cheap to pay for that. So everybody should have one of those policies. And you're right. They're no fuss, no muss. They're typically just signing a form. 2 weeks later, you get a policy. And it gets the job done for not a lot of money. And good. If all you need is a burial policy, then you should buy one of those. Mm-hmm. However, especially related to a divorce situation where people have other needs for insurance, they need to have to replace somebody's income, pay off a mortgage, other debts. Those policies are not suitable because they're too small. So the answer to your question is, for everybody who has multiple needs for insurance, those policies are not suitable. They need a completely underwritten, larger policy. But if in those cases where all you need is burial money, then those smaller policies are fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's something to really think about. So you have to think about all your needs together to make sure that, you know, I would suggest just making a list of what is important to you and what you want to make sure that you cover, and then give you, Stephen, a call and make an appointment and talk to you on it. And you can live anywhere because you can connect with them through the phone, through Skype, through like what we're doing here. So there's all different ways to connect, but this way, and you handle 48 states, so it really doesn't matter where you live, you pretty much just got it covered. So yeah, so definitely they should give you a call. So give us your contact information one more time.
Sure. My toll-free line, which is direct, is 866-633-1818. My website is approvedasquoted.com, and my personal blog is planrisklive.com.
That's great. Well, Stephen, I appreciate you being on the show very much. I mean, it's a lot of information, and I know you've got so much more that you can probably share with us, and maybe we'll do that another time. But I hope that everyone out there, if you're thinking about trying to protect not only yourself, but your future, even now during your lifetime and after, to benefit your ones that you love, make it easier on them. I hope that you will give Stephen Kobrin a call or contact him through his website and just get the information that you need, then go from there. Make a decision, educated decision. That's what it's all about, right?
Educated consumer is the best shopper, as I said.
Absolutely. And that's what we are here on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And Stephen Kobrin is one of our elite guests, and I do appreciate all his support that he gives us. And we want to thank you so much, Stephen, for your time today.
You are welcome, Cece. Thank you very much.
But thank you. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are showcasing Going Solo with Cece, the business showcase, and of course our elite guest. And thank you so much for being with us. Stephen Kobrin, bye for now.
Bye-bye. Have a good day, Cece.
Bye. Thank you.